Good morning. My name is Patricia Martucci, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist practicing in New York, New Jersey, and California. So, I want to talk a little bit today about integrating spirituality into psychotherapy. It's a topic that I found, belongs with each other. And I find that in modern psychology, especially in the Western world, we tend to separate out, the cognition part of psychology and therapy from, the holistic lens of inclusion with, mind, body, spirit. And I found that, when I do my work with clients, that it's impossible to separate, who we are as humans living in our body, and having that physical experience, and, we have thoughts, we have our brain working, we have cognition. We also are, you know, I guess you could say, like here and run through the spirit. The spirit is what gives us life and allows us to be here. And, I think that's a very important part of what we want to look at when we're considering how to help somebody heal. And, when I used to work on the West Coast and was amongst a group of other practicing therapists who also were attuned to and plugged into and would integrate spirit and spirituality into the work that we did as healers. I was privileged enough to witness many, many wonderful miracles happen, day by day. And I wanted to share just a couple of ways that I've seen this work. I feel like when I am attuned to my own, spirit and allowing that channel to be open, and I'm sitting with a client in the room, I find that, if I set an intention to allow whatever it is that's going to help me to help them come through, I find that I have, wisdom, a channel of wisdom coming through me that maybe otherwise wouldn't be there. So what I found is when I'm open to plugging into the channel of good and, positive or whatever stuff, just healing in the world, and my intentions are pure in that realm, I embody a sense of wisdom, to help others. Like I can see things that I maybe wouldn't normally see if I was just working from a place of cognition. And so, and it's been pretty powerful and pretty cool. I can have a vision to see, patterns that are going on and different, sense into the person's spirit, into their body, and, and it can give me information that can help me to understand maybe the path that they're on and what I can do to help support and guide them towards the path that they want to be on, where they want to go. I had this really cool experience. I'm going to share about one or two of them. The first one was I was working at this place out in Malibu and with some of who are currently my best friends and wonderful colleagues. And, we were in an addiction treatment center, and it was, at times could be a really intense, dark energy that would be felt. I think when you're working with addiction, there's a level of darkness that enters in, the addiction really. And for somebody to be in that place, oftentimes they're disconnected from body, spirit, and something else is guiding them, something bigger than any of those things, something dark and destructive, right? So, so it was really important that I myself had then connected to and would attune to different spiritual practices so I could, hold the light and work hard to be in a position where I could see what's going on, hold the light, and help make space for my clients to connect to their own path in healing, and their own light. So me and two of my friends, we were feeling the darkness, and we would always have these spiritual rituals that we would do to really try to connect us into the light. I don't know how I would have made it through that time without these wonderful healing ladies and men. And we would do something called unicorn cards, where we would be in my office, and we would pull these cards and sort of stand in the light. And it was a beautiful time to get to know all of the light that lives and lived within us, at that time, and continues to, and also around us. We were in this beautiful location, overlooking the ocean in Malibu, California. And, and there was so much, we were on sacred grounds, and there was just so much that, we could plug into that would feed and expand upon, the good in me and the light that I was able to allow to channel through me and hold, so anyway, we were struggling. I think there was just like a lot of stuff going on, maybe active addiction in the treatment center and different things that, as healers, we were trying to raise the bar and hold the light. And, it was really hard to. So I remember me and two of my colleagues, we went on the roof of one of the buildings, I think there were 5 houses there. This was so long ago. This was over 10 years ago, I think, by now. And we would, we were on the ceiling, and we brought our sage up there, and when we were burning sage, and we held hands, and we said, we set an intention for all of the darkness to be removed from the treatment center, from around us, from our clients, from the intention of healing, which was why, people would come most of the time. Addiction is very strong, though, and it's really hard and takes sometimes multiple times to really realign these patterns of, really connecting to the good, the spirit of life, and allowing that, the good, the positive, the, light energy to really guide and to make that shift, as difficult as it was. And a lot of people, had to come back multiple times, and it would be heartbreaking and sad when we would observe, the addiction, that dark energy and dark force sort of taking a client back out. So at this moment in time, we were there, we decided, we had a lot of selenite crystals. I remember my friend's office had a lot of selenite at the door, just to cleanse, like when you walked in and out. We had a lot of black tourmaline crystals all over. I think it was a big ring that I got just to sort of protect my energy space. And I learned and practiced many different wonderful spiritual rituals that I take with me today and still use. My friend and I, when we were there, we ended up also getting certified in Reiki, and we're able to hold that energy as well and use some of those practices to support our clients to plug into the light, and to acknowledge and see, that was bigger than their addiction, and that force, of love and light is much stronger than the darkness that addiction, sort of has when it puts its grips on somebody and tries to take them. So we were on the the roof, and we set an intention, like, for all of the darkness to leave, and to move on. Anything that was getting in the way of the environment being a healing beacon of light for those who wanted to get better and recover, we asked for that to be cast out and pushed aside and destroyed or whatever. And so we had that, and we sat in a circle, we held hands, I believe, and I'm sure we had crystals too. We were always working with the crystals. And we burned that sage, and we saged the whole upstairs or the roof part. And I believe we probably, even if we were allowed to, I'm not sure if we were allowed to, because the places we worked were, they had to be accredited by different boards. So there were different rules. I can't remember at this time what we were able to do and not able to do, but we ended up saying that. And then, we left it, and I felt better. I felt like, that lifted my energy. And literally it was probably like 10 minutes later, we got this email from, like, I guess it went to everybody that was there in the treatment center that said, we just found drugs in 3 of our clients that were in that same house that we were in. And like I said, there were 5, in their rooms, and they've been, asked to leave, and that they were leaving. And I thought, wow, what a powerful moment to know. And it's interesting, right? It's kind of like, we could maybe explain that in many different ways, but the fact that that happened 10 minutes after we had set that ritual, we had no idea what we were setting that for. It wasn't like we knew, or we set a specific intention. It was really broad, and that was really a wonderful, beautiful example of how, we would plug into the spirituality and use that to really carry us as healers, through energies that at times oftentimes could be dark. And what I found too was that, it was so important for the staff to really be working on themselves. We had to really work on ourselves and our own path of recovery and healing, whatever that might be, to stand in the light day by day. And I know at that time, it was really important to make sure that I was doing my own work, in my own programs, and, making sure I was having balance. And it wasn't always easy. And, it was important to have a great, strong team, and it was really beautiful. So I am going to end this video now, and I'm going to share a part 2 with another really, really, I think, powerful, magical, fascinating story that connects a vision that one of my colleagues had about 2 of my clients that I was working with at the time, and then how I was able to see that come through a few years later through a conversation with that same client. So I will share about that. Thank you for watching.